The Bench Now Belong to You by Darlene Parker. Mordiana walked into church that Sunday morning with a determined mind about that old woman. She is not going to make me move to the middle of this bench today. Every Sunday, Miss Maisie always gone like she rule one bench in a church, and nobody for sit down there. Every Sunday, Miss Maisie comes to church late and expected people to move when she comes. This Sunday was no exception. 10 minutes after church started, in comes Miss Maisie. Her 6 feet, 3-inch frame, and light brown complexion well smoothed with powder. She wore a lime green and sunflower patterned dress, a lime green hat tilted on her head, black leather shoes and matching bag hanging in the crook of her elbow, and her back was ramrod straight as she walked up the aisle. Mother Dowdy, the song leader, called the number of the hymn. We shall sing number 44 when the roll is called up yonder. As they started to sing, Janice dug Mordiana under her rib and whispered, "She'll come." Mordiana took a deep breath, summoned her courage, and waited for what seemed like an eternity. As Miss Maisie reached her side, it seemed like everything switched to slow motion. The tambourine slowed down. The words of the song were no longer audible. Miss Maisie stopped and waited for Mordiana to look. Mordiana kept her eyes steadfast on the song leader, watching as she moved her hands up and down as she kept the congregation on beat. Miss Maisie bent her neck and looked straight in Mordiana's eyes. Then she nodded her head. She uttered not a word, but just nodded her head. Mordiana muttered to herself, "Well, today she gonna nod she head till Pastor think she agree with everything he said, 'cause me now move." Miss Maisie leaned closer and whispered, keeping her upper lip stiff to emphasize the words coming out of her mouth. "You little gal, move in." Mordiana did not budge. Miss Maisie spoke a little louder, clenching her teeth this time. "You little gal, move in a bench." By this time, people around stared, expecting her to move. Well, Mordiana stepped aside, opened her hand like an usher, and motioned for Miss Maisie to pass through. Miss Maisie gave one big and said, "Me say for move." Well, who tells she do that? Mordiana looked at her and said, "Me say for pass, the bench na belong to you." Well, the nerve of this little gal! Miss Maisie gave a stone cold look at Mordiana, wagged her long bony finger and said, "The devil really get a hold of you, little gal." With that, she turned and looked for another seat. Mordiana breathed a sigh. Then she felt eyes staring through her. She looked up, meeting her mother's eyes. They told her of the doom to come later, but that was later. For now she was thrilled. This was the first of many fights for her to retain her rightful place. The end.